So, it's air conditioning season, guys. Tons of different problems out there. We heard from our buddy Peter Cole from Neutronics not long ago when we did the Motor Age webcast. We had Peter on as guest speaker. We spoke about 1234YF, new refrigerant coming down, actually in many vehicles. GM sticking it in more now. European Union is forcing everyone over there in Europe to start sticking it in there. Mercedes threw the monkey wrench into the picture. But the real thing at hand is we have to still deal with R134A, and there's a lot of hybrids out there, which brings me to this. Neil, you just did a Prius. So why don't you tell us the difference of working on an electric compressor, and everyone should be aware of there's an electric compressor out there for years now, not only on Priuses, on many of the Honda products, and of course other hybrids from General Motors and other companies that are out there, Hyundais and so on. So tell us about what you encountered.
Well, I don't know, not too many of you guys know this, but I think about 8 years ago, we did a hybrid class at my shop in Sleepy Hollow. And we all got the gloves and everything we needed to work on these things. And believe it or not, I have probably 30 customers with Priuses, and finally got a car that was supposed to do a compressor on, a condenser. The customer bought me his used parts.
Nothing like used parts, huh?
But he didn't want to, you know, it was an older car with 140,000 miles. So I thought I could do it, and then when I go to look, somebody took my gloves, and I couldn't do anything. So I had to, I was able to do the condenser, but I was not able to do the compressor. So I had to bring it to Jerry over here, to his son, and they were able to take that apart, because you have to turn the electricity off on that so you can work on the car. Otherwise, it's too dangerous.
Right. And that's something you should all be aware of. That's 201 volts that goes to that compressor. And what Neil was talking about,
DC volts.
DC will do it, and AC will also do it, but you know, you're talking a hell of a lot of electricity. Any orange wire on a vehicle, you need the right gloves. They got to be Cat 3 certified for 1,000 volts. You also need glove covers, and that's also an important part. Now these gloves, I guess the retail price nowadays is probably somewhere about 140, 150 bucks. They do have to be tested periodically. I probably have about 5 pairs of them. They should be measured for your hand. Our buddies at AES also sells them. You need to measure your hand and leave a little room. That's important. Don't get the glove too big, too small. Put some, they give you, good kits give you a bag for them. They give you the cover liners, which is like a rawhide type of liner on the outside, because they're just rubber and they're easy to cut. Now that being said, there are other precautions when we're dealing with this air condition system on a hybrid vehicle. You probably read stuff from our friends at Mobile Air Conditioning Society, MAX. You know, there was big controversy about using your air conditioning machine to charge it up. Well, Pierre, what are we using for oil in our 134A cars now?
Other than hybrids with electric compressors, we're using PAG oil.
So PAG, tell us a little bit about PAG, Mr. Pierre.
Well, PAG oil came out with the 134 because they said it was, I guess, more compatible with all the seals and all the system components.
And it was easier to flow.
And it was easier to flow. The problem is these electric compressors, PAG oil is conductive at these higher voltages.
And it's an alkaline that eats away at insulation.
And so between the electrical aspects and the caustic aspects, it'll compromise the compressor, so you can end up with a very dangerous
shocking experience.
A very dangerous short circuit.
Now, that being said, all fun aside here, you know, let's be very cautious. Neil did the right thing. If you don't have the right equipment at the time, you know, and you can't get the gloves, they don't sell them readily everywhere.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. Don't get hurt and just think, oh, I'll power the car down, it'll be okay. You don't know. There's problems that you can have, and all you need is be the one unlucky guy, and it's all over.
And you know, depending on who you talk to, DC voltage with high current available.
Sucks
What do they
you right
say
in.
about 40 to 45 volts? Somewhere in that threshold. Anything above that is lethal, and you can't disconnect yourself. It locks your muscles. As soon as you touch it, you're hooked in until you're cooked.
You're not a Russian power builder and bodybuilder. You know, this is not a stim machine, but it will stimulate you. Okay,
Yeah, right. It'll be the last stimulus you ever get.
But anyway, you know, the caution on these hybrid cars, why I bring it up. Let's say someone did put regular oil in there. Now, you know, our buddies at AirSep, Aaron Becca, his company, AirSep makes a couple of different tools. One, just for the hybrid oil, that you can install on your air conditioning machine. You know, it's expensive, it's not cheap, but it's not thousands of dollars, it's under $1,000. If you put this in series with your machine, we all know that you put oil through your machine, a PAG oil, right? Because we're working with 134A. Well, that PAG oil is going to give us a problem. And if you go to hook up to the car, our little fittings on our air conditioning hoses are metal, aren't they? And it's going to metal on a compressor. I would not recommend plugging in without gloves on those cars. You really, safety practices, not because G says it, but because the OEs say it. You never know who worked on something, and we've all seen things rigged, haven't we?
Yeah.
Everyone likes to
Absolutely.
play with stuff. So,
And what happens when this insulation breaks down? I mean, Jerry said insulation breaks down. What you don't understand is the whole compressor is now charged.
it's hot.
It's electrically charged with voltage, big voltage.
And
So-
Paul Weissler did a great job on it. I mean, there's some people out there, we won't mention names, there's one person out there who was arguing back and forth. He says he's a hybrid expert, but you know, there's an issue with that. Mobile Air Conditioning Society, and especially Paul Weissler, who does stuff with SAE for years, you know, all of the companies, if a company tells you it's unsafe, we are not smarter than engineers. You
And
know,
why would you want to be a test pilot?
no, it's not worth it. So what do you guys think? Any questions or comments so far? You know, use the right equipment. AirSept, you could attach it to your machine, and what that does is the process of any oil, PAG oil that is in your hoses or in the unit goes through this special, almost like a dryer engine and heater, filters, and you won't have the problem. And only use the proper hybrid oil, okay? Now, how about leaks? Leaks on air conditioning system, any systems, is a big pain in the ass, isn't it?
Yep.
Especially when you have rear air conditioning.
And hidden components that are very difficult to access.
Now, black light, schmack light, all these things are a pain in the butt, right?
But they're good for they're good when they're good. I mean, there's no question about it.
So
Dye is great when you can see it.
exactly. Because how about when it gets up the drip tube? Even when you go up with your little black light thing,
It's hard to see.
there's different spectrums of black lights. Now, the one we like, and you know, we've been using it in the webcast, is from UView. The UView one, it's a little bit more money than the rest of them, but it's like a little flashlight. You've seen it on the different webcasts.
And it's
or
broad
go back.
spectrum.
And you can make it go real wide, real narrow, but the big thing, like Pierre said, broad spectrum. Meaning, if you were like me, and I didn't realize this till, I don't know how many years ago, but let's say 5 years ago, you know, I got kind of ticked off. I bought a black light, a few of them actually, and you know, when you buy it, you buy the dye with it.
Yeah.
And then what happens when you run out of the dye?
You buy the
call
dye from the other guy.
the other guy, Carquest, Napa, Joe Schmo, whatever. You go, oh yeah, this dye's dye, right? Well, dye's not dye,
And then you
that's
can't
why
see it.
You can't see it.
Yeah.
That makes the big difference. So if you buy the UView light, it works with all different spectrums of dye, and it becomes easier. But we know cars like Honda. Honda condensers leak like there's no tomorrow, and usually it's the
Not
left
just them.
front corner. And a lot of times you don't see the dye because what happened? When it came out with the oil, it captured every piece of frickin' dirt on the road, and now you don't
Now
see
it's
it.
that thick.
It's that thick, and you don't see it.
Right.
You could suspect it's there. You know, so what do you guys do?
Well, I do the best that I can. I tell my customers to be patient. I had a 98 Sienna that we couldn't find, the dealer told them that everything was fine, and got him, no, never mind.
The bottom line is it still had a leak, right?
Yeah, I found a leak in the back evaporator tube going to the evaporator. To fix that, because it's a 98, you get one tube, then the other one goes bad, and the other one, I have to
Everything's
change
rusty.
6 tubes, lines and all that to get
And
that
something else
fixed.
is gonna go.
Yeah, yeah. It's all rusty.
Well, I got it working.
Boom.
He uses it maybe 3 days, comes back, it's not working. When I had the Freon in there, the condenser, I checked the condenser, could not see it leaking. Now it's got 3 or 4 spots. So the guy's going for
Well,
the
remember, R134A
Mhm.
and air causes hydrofluoric acid. And what happens when a customer has a leak for a while, like in Neil's case with the tubes, it's eaten away from the inside out. And it's not only eating air, but where do you have oil with refrigerant in it? In the condenser, in the compressor,
Compressor.
in the evaporator.
Everything.
So what happens? All this stuff is going to start to go. And there's a big difference, just like Alex out here that works for my son. Alex had one car. Oh, your Prius.
Mhm.
It held vacuum perfect. I looked at him and I laughed. I go, I don't care about vacuum.
Care about pressure.
I care about pressure. He goes, yeah, but that's what they tell you. I go, I don't care. Working on cars that are older, this is not brand new out of the factory. What's going to happen when we have 200-300 pounds of hot weather like today? You're going to be high on that high
Oh, yeah.
side, 350.
And you know, some vehicles have an auxiliary fan that runs all the time when the compressor's running. Others do not. And those cars have very high side pressures
high.
on a hot day or hot days like we've had.
And it's
That-
going to go ba-boom, isn't it?
and the other thing is that hydrofluoric acid, that's why you gotta flush the system once it's been compromised.
Exactly.
Gotta flush it.
And don't forget, when you put the new condenser in, look up in All Data or wherever, how many ounces of oil go into it. Never mind what you put in through your air conditioning machine. It's in the component.
Right.
Just like a lot of compressors. They'll tell you, with oil, without
Yes.
oil.
Charged with oil or not charged with oil.
Make sure you guys are doing that very, very carefully. You know, too much oil obviously is no good for the system.
And too little is
And too
worse.
little is bad. And when we open up to put a condenser, a lines, compressor, we need to change what? The
Receiver, dryer,
or
or
accumulator.
accumulator, right?
And a lot of people don't want to go for it. And if your unit comes with the caps off it, you know, because the parts store guy liked playing with the blue or red cap on it, it's no good already in this humidity.
And you
The
know,
desiccant is, forget it. It's
we've
bad.
we've talked about this. We've had training for years. But what's the primary seal on an air conditioning system? It's not the valve. It's the cap.
That cap.
Primary seal is the cap. Secondary seal is the valve.
And we know how many of those, how many caps are missing
I
and
see
dirt
them.
gets in there.
Nowadays, where I am now, this part-time job,
I
used to buy
every day.
I had one leaking because of the cap. You pushed the cap on too hard and it leaked.
Well, a
It
lot
was-
of people don't have the right caps. I
It's
used
the
to
wrong
get,
cap there. It's into the valve stem.
I don't know what you guys use, but I think
This is a
Craig still
retrofit
does.
on a 1990.
Oh, Lord.
Retrofit. Well, all bets are up.
FJC out of North Carolina, they make some very, very good oils, and they make kits. You're missing, you know, you want caps, you want all the different valve stems,
Yeah,
you want
right.
the ones that you need the wrench to take out or a socket.
Right.
They have all those, and they're pretty good. Any questions, comments? But, you know, other things besides air conditioning, obviously, there are plenty of cars out there with different problems. You know, if you're not in an emission state, you probably don't care much about monitors. I mean, we speak about monitors all the time, OBD2 cars and monitors.
We live and die by them in New York.
And, you know, I always call the check engine light the use suck light. And for that light to be really accurate, the monitors all have to be ready.
That's right.
Because if a monitor's not ready, you're not going to get a DTC, diagnostic trouble code. And then what's going to happen? You give the customer the car back. For some God unforeseen reason,
It runs the
finally
monitor.
runs the monitor,
And it fails.
and there's the check engine light.
There you
And now
go.
you look bad.
There's a question.
P0172006 Chevy Impala.
P0172, so a rich condition on an Impala.
It's a mixture code. What have you checked? What's freeze frame?
Yeah, you know, Pierre brings a good thing up. A 172, rich condition, freeze frame. Now, where's the O2 sensor at? And again, looking at stuff, we always tell people look in mode 6, but I would go with freeze frame
Freeze
first.
frame first once you have a code.
Look at load, you know, how fast you were going, what the temperature is.
2 temperatures, air and coolant, because a
Definitely.
stupid thing like that can throw your world off. If it thinks it's 40 below, say you have an air temperature sensor that's disconnected, and it thinks it's 40 below, you're automatically too rich.
Definitely.
Bingo. Broken wire.
How's 1234Y going?
How's 1234 YF
YF?
going? Well, it's going really on track. You know, Mercedes did throw the wrench in it last year when they decided
They refused.
they weren't going to go with it. They installed it in the cars, they took it out, they retrofitted them all to 134A, but the European Union, and please check our webcast, the Motor Age TST webcast, probably a couple of months ago, with Peter Cole giving us the latest update. He sits on the SAE Tech Committee, who's over in Europe. They're going ahead with this. You're going to see it in Volkswagens, you're going to see it in Beamers, Mercedes, everyone, or they won't be able to sell the car.
Well, what about machines to
New equipment.
capture? Yeah.
Oh, there's out there, these machines,
New
you know,
Oh.
here's the thing that you
Oh, no.
always have to realize. You know, when you read some stuff in Motor Age, or any other magazine for that matter, you need to read. That's number one. Don't just do stuff on the internet. You need to read stuff, and when you see something coming up, 1234 YF, they've been speaking about this or a different refrigerant for at least 6+ years. Now the machines are out there, and by the way, the air conditioning machine you need to purchase has a built-in identifier. You cannot hook it up if it sees anything else than pure 1234 YF. You're not sucking
won't do it.
It won't do it.
And they're different fittings.
Yes.
It's all different.
There
Yeah,
are
of
guys
course,
out
we know
there
people are gonna
saying
play with
that
it.
they haven't built the machine yet.
Oh, they're
They
there.
don't know what they're talking about.
Oh, they
Well,
sold
obviously,
plenty
they
of
sold the
machines.
machine.
Plenty of machines have already been sold.
The dealers are going to be.
Mercedes, GM.
The dealers are
Like-
being forced to buy them because they're the first ones to see the systems.
Yeah, Cadillac already has it. The dealer in that I got the Volt and stuff from, and my CTS, they have it. More?
Yeah. Any better way to check the MG2 stators besides OHM meters, amp
Okay.
probes?
Very good.
All meters are.
So first,
Not under load.
let's repeat the question.
Oh, okay.
Any better way to test the MG motor generator? He's talking about a hybrid with the meg ohm meter, not just an ohm meter. You need a meg ohm meter. Is very, very important to use because that's going to put out over 1,000 volts. The Fluke 1587, that is the meter number, 1587 Fluke, is the meter that you want to buy. You cannot use your regular ohm meter testing these big ass windings. You need to put 1,000 volts through it. By the way, the voltage you put through is very low amperage.
And it's for a very short period of time, too.
And every time I do a class and I show someone that, they go, there's no 1,000 volts out of that. I go, well, give me your finger. And they're not going to get killed, but they're going to get a shocking experience. They jump. And then I say, give me a regular digital voltometer, and I'm going to show you.
What do you feel?
We put out 1,027 volts out of that. And that'd be the best way to test the motor generator. And by the way, I have a few of them I use in classes that have burnt up due to battery problems. And I use them in my class to show people. I did one for AMCO. I did 2 for a couple of students of mine that burned them up. It is a common problem when the batteries go bad. Gen 1 and Gen 2 Priuses, very common. I have never seen a Honda go bad yet. So those.
So they're overloading the motor generator and
Correct.
overheating the winding.
Yeah, overheating the windings. So, it's always a good idea to start with the scan tool, no doubt, but really to check the windings out, you need the 1587 meg ohm meter. There's a few other brands out there, but go by what the OEs recommend. I love my Fluke
You're
1587.
asking this question?
So, they got more questions.
Oh,
Neil's going to help
this
us.
Neil's going to help with some of the questions.
Because Doreen may be.
Will it be sold in parts stores like 134A, I guess the refrigerant? It's got
Yes, but here's the deal with the refrigerant. 15-pound containers They're only going to be sold in 15-pound containers. It's over $100+ a pound currently.
Big bucks.
Big bucks. So here's the good news. The refrigerant systems are very little. Some of them are under 16 ounces, which is 1 pound. Some of them I think are 12 or
Yeah, they were
10.
going to be under a pound.
They're very low.
And they're designed to be much tighter than older designed refrigerant systems.
And
they're really not going to leak
as much.
unless something happens to them, right?
All right, we have a question, not a question, a comment. We are having problems with Napa cold power compressors.
Cold power, air conditioning compressors, I assume. So they're saying that Napa compressors,
Napa cold power compressors, well, maybe they got a bad batch, but you know something, try a different vendor.
Okay.
and by the way, you know, I used to be on the Napa Council, but I was a Napa Auto Care and all that. If you complain, what I learned with Napa, if you have a real good store you're dealing with, you tell them your complaints, like years back on Toyotas, we had problems with the cap and wires. They really remedied the problem. Before they built new ones aftermarket, they started boxing the OE dealer ones, and they were a couple of bucks cheaper than the dealer. So if you don't complain,
Nothing happens.
nothing happens. And by the way, that goes with anything. I don't give if it's CarQuest, Napa, Joe Schmo. You got a problem with something, whether it's a tool, a part, you need to voice your opinion.
Document it too.
All right,
Write
Rich.
down what you got.
Rich is making a comment. Make sure that your gauges set zeros out without being connected.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
I had a shop that was driven crazy with weird pressures, but they didn't zero it out.
yeah. Now, here's the thing that I yell at my son using my air conditioning machines. First of all, when you're done doing an AC job, every job, you need to recover all the refrigerant
Out
and
of the
leave
lines.
it in a vacuum. Now, here's why. Number one, you get to see that your lines are tight, because what happens, sometimes they loosen up,
Yep.
so you need to be in that vacuum.
And the valves
30
at the
inches.
end are good.
That's correct. And let's say you left pressure in the line, you put it on a car, you know how you don't wear your safety glasses. This refrigerant is a minus 21 degrees, and that'll freeze your freaking eye. 15 degrees, 21 is R12. It'll freeze your freaking eyeballs big time.
All right, Eric,
So be careful with that.
Eric is asking a question. In your experience, has the Meg ohm meter found the burnt Meg 2 stator?
Oh,
Gen 1?
Okay, here's what he's talking about. In my experience, has the meg ohm meter found burnt windings in motor generator 1 or 2? Motor generator 1 usually is not that bad. It's number 2 that goes, the bigger one. Yes, I've found problems in both of them. You need to do this UVW. That is the wiring harness identification. You'll see it in the car, UVW, and you'll see the 3 phases there. You need to check all of them against each other, and then each one to ground. Because I had a couple of them short at the case.
To ground, but
Right.
not to each other.
I've had them short to each other as well.
All right,
So you got to check them both ways.
Matt is making a comment. Just for your FYI, cabin air filters on a 2013 Ford C-Max is located in the heater core.
Wow. So was that Matt you said?
Matt, yeah.
So Matt, thanks for that information. So you're looking for a cabin air filter.
And they
They
stuck
have
it in the but next to the heater core.
They're gonna kill us.
Yeah, that's
You know,
fun.
Key information, staying up to date on stuff. All Data really has a lot of nice stuff. I've been playing with the All Data online. I hate to say, I still love the DVDs, a lot easier, but they're doing away with them. Motor Logic, very, very nice. I really do like that. You have that as well.
I use that, yeah. I use that.
Identifix. You know, you need someone that's going to give you the latest stuff, but what I found with all of these companies, you will get some new stuff on one system
And not on the other.
and not on the other, and then you go look for this car. Let's say you're on a 2012. Oh, okay, so you go into XYZ system. They don't have it on that one. You need more than one system out
And
there,
not one of these
because they're not covering
systems.
it.
Not one of these systems is complete either.
No, especially on new stuff, and you know, you get a lot of new stuff in. It's crazy.
That's tough.
It's tough.
Yep.
You know, don't worry about the noise in the background. I don't know what Alex is doing. Alex is still working.
Sounds like a vacuum pump.
But whatever he's doing, not a problem. Any other questions, comments? Some of the other things that you need to look at out there is network problem. How many of you guys are having problems with networks going down?
You know, it's funny. I've been doing general stuff, and I've had, since you asked me that, what, 2 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago.
I've had 2 vehicles come in with U codes, and neither customer wanted to pursue them
Because
they weren't killing the car.
They become very expensive.
Right.
That's a
One was a
Actually,
U1000.
yeah, I've
I
had
forgot
those.
what-
I've had those as well.
You've had.
And they kind of don't want to.
Nobody wants- they don't understand
It's
it.
too much time.
It's time-consuming networks. Not everyone's a GM where you can pull the comb out and then disconnect
Separate everything.
separated from the bus. Some of them you got to cut or you got to disconnect, and it's not easy.
One of the networks, I don't remember what, I think it was a GM, I think it was a Chevy, and it had to do with communication to the doors, I think. I forgot exactly what it
Yeah,
was.
usually a lot of body stuff
and-
more than anything else is an
And
issue.
the customer, when I mentioned it, because I saw that it had, not only did I see that the whole driver's door wasn't working, but I saw that I had some network codes. When I mentioned it up front to the bosses, they said, "Oh, he knows about that. He doesn't want to do anything." And that was the end of that.
I just want to make a comment about monitors and getting them to ready to pass inspection. I had a car with 205,000 miles, 2001 Toyota 4Runner, that I guess I could have looked up the proper procedure, but sometimes doing some of the things that they tell you to do, it's kind of, you know, too time consuming. So I called one guy that was quicker to call, and I did his procedure, and it kind of might have helped somewhat. But then I called Jerry and asked him, and he gave me a different procedure, and that actually, maybe in combination with the other one, but that worked, because otherwise I was going to go to mode 6, and I didn't have to because I got the car to pass. This car was at multiple shops, and the customer put 1,000 miles on the car.
And it never ran the monitors.
You know, that's one important thing with monitors, and you know, that's a lot what I do in my state work stuff. You know, Mr. Monitor Expert, you really need to be anal with. I have a generic drive cycle that I built for many states. That's a 30-minute test drive. This is if everything is out. The first thing I would say before ever clearing any code, what you'd like to do is when you fix the code, see what the criteria is for running that. So let's say you did an EGR valve, and it tells you the EGR monitor runs at 30-something miles an hour. Do not clear the codes and the light. Drive that drive cycle 2 times, okay?
And see if mode 6 shows it as passed.
And if it shows that it's passed, guess what? The light is going to go out. Don't worry about the code. It'll stay in there 40 times, okay? And then it'll go bye-bye. That's the best way to do it. Now, if you read some information on a car and it says, because certain car companies won't do it, Janice's Honda that time, even though they said it in the factory material, not even in aftermarket. She had a broken O2 in the rear, simple. Happened on the LIE, I put a new O2 in. I happened to drive this thing all around. That freaking car didn't do it in 500 miles. But I wasn't driving it just for that. I had to go driving around. I brought it in. I spoke to my friend John Bull at Honda at the time. And he said, well, you know, sometimes we put stuff in manuals and it don't work. What I'd suggest is clearing everything. I cleared it right out here in the bay. Only turn the key to the on position after waiting 2 minutes with the key off. I always wait 2 minutes. 2 monitors were set. The O2 heater went. The catalyst went without running the car.
Now, there's another thing about clearing, you know, again, running into everything nowadays down at this place I'm at, a few days a week. Some test protocols will not allow you to run them unless you've cleared the codes.
Exactly.
And so you have to clear the codes to complete the test at that point.
That's when you have to RTFB. Read the
Yep.
freaking book, or you know it. It's a good idea to keep a little notebook in your toolbox to see which one.
I have about 6 pads.
Yeah, you
like
see the
this.
stuff, the Chinese stuff here, you can't
All
read.
this garbage is it's jobs from, you know,
And it looks like, Doreen, we have
a day in the
questions.
I
life.
have quite a few.
Heard a few?
How about retrofitting old GMs with the pop valve? I have a lot of problems. I have
Oh,
had
the-
a lot of
The
problems.
pop valve. Well, you know what you can do on some of them? You could seal the caps up with permanent Loctite and put saddle valves. You guys familiar with saddle valves?
No.
Saddle valves,
The ones that
here's
pinch
the
and
line.
go onto the line.
They pinch, they use it
Right.
for refrigeration.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Right.
And they sell them for cars.
So you're just replacing the existing connection.
Right, that connection
original.
is now dead. I used
Right.
to have metal caps I bought for that, because some of them were stripped.
Right.
Some of them, even the 134, you remember when it first came out, 134? Some of the connectors they made, the nipples at the factory,
They weren't.
they didn't fit
accurate,
right. They weren't accurate. So I'd seal the cap on it, where you
I know,
never get this thing off,
I never ran into
and I
that.
saddle valve. Well, you know, you didn't work on Jeeps and shit boxes, right?
Right.
Excuse the language, but you know, there were many junk boxes out there that weren't all that good.
And Leonard had a Impala 2007 today with 6 U codes.
Oh,
Six U
network.
codes.
Boy, Leonard, where you at, man? I'm trying to do a article on
He
it.
needs
I need
information.
I need information.
Case studies.
I need to play around on a real problem
Six-
car.
6 U codes, you gotta really look at what those U codes are. If it's U1000, you basically got nobody home.
Well, here's one of the
And-
biggest things I want you to look for first. Did anyone put any aftermarket stuff in that car? Number one thing to look at. Number two thing, anyone do any welding on a car, or the car get hit by lightning? Or jump started? Seriously.
Yeah. Reverse
I'm
polarity jump
laughing,
start.
but that does a lot on that. So Leonard, if you're in the New York, New Jersey, Connecticut area, let me know.
Well, would it also be a good idea to take the battery terminals and touch them? Would that reset?
That-
it? No.
You
If
never
it's-
know.
It may. It's not a
It
bad
may-
idea.
I don't think it can hurt.
At that point, nothing can hurt.
Nothing can hurt. Now, you know, being a BMW guy for years, BMW always recommended that you don't just touch the terminals
One
together.
10 watt resistor.
Right, a 10 ohm 1 watt resistor. Got that backwards, yeah. A 10 ohm 1 watt resistor in the line between the two battery cables, so you didn't end up on a surge, with a surge on discharge.
Yeah, that's how you always,
It's not a bad
always
idea.
bring them down. Yeah, you know, even Chrysler recommends that.
Yeah.
No one wants you just touching them anymore.
Right.
You bring them down slowly. Another question?
Yes, Leonard asks, what is the standard operating procedure that a tech should follow when checking an AC systems for leaks? He has 2 shops and every tech wants to do the procedure differently.
Ah, Leonard, that's a very good one. Now the procedure, I'm not a big beep beep guy. The first thing I would recommend is hooking your gauges up, check the ambient temperature in your shop, and even if you have a good thermometer, it can go under the hood of the car. See if the low side and the high side is somewhere near the ambient temperature. If it's not near the ambient, you have leaked some out already.
Static pressure.
Static pressure. The next step that I'd recommend is starting the system up. No, excuse me. Leave the system off. Check the low side, because the low side pressure at that point is higher than when it's running. With the little beep beep thing, and the new ones, the new J number they have, go under the line because refrigerant is heavier than air. So you would go very slowly underneath the line all over. I would check places like condenser, evaporator, the drip tube. Be careful, don't let water leak onto your unit. I highly recommend that you buy ultrasound. To me, ultrasound is the best tool
Now,
for finding leaks.
all of that said, if you have a fan blowing in the shop, if you have a lot of noise, that ultrasound, you gotta isolate yourself from other sound sources.
Not if
And
you
the
have a good
same,
one.
and the same is true, I don't know, where I am now, I got 3 fans blowing on me and horns
This-
blowing and all
A
kinds of
good
stuff.
ultrasound unit, the one like they used to sell from White Industry. This ultrasound unit made by Ultraphonics, they use it for NASCAR. Now I have a very expensive one, but a $300, or now $500 one. It's $500 nowadays. You buy this thing, you can use it on evap leaks, you can use it on wind noises, and what it does, just like your cell phone nowadays, where it blocks out other noises, you don't hear the other noises. You hear the hiss. My daughter had a problem, you probably guys are sick of hearing this if you listen to me. She had a problem on her air conditioner when she lived in Maryland. Brought it up, I tried dye, I went up to drip tube. I found the dye later on after I took the evaporator out. But you know how I found the problem? With ultrasound. And the very expensive unit I have allows you to hook it to a lab scope. When I hooked it to a lab scope, this thing was like this. As soon as I got close to the drip tube, it was going nutty. Put it up there, it was crazy. So I said, how am I going to prove this? I put the refrigerant machine on. I recovered all the refrigerant. You know what happened to that line? Flat line. Put some in. When I took the evaporator out, oh, there was dye. Buried on the leaves. The evaporator was bad, and the only thing that caught it, forget the beep, beep, beep piece of junk, forget about every other thing you got, that is the best sprayer.
Since he just said about the leaves, buried under leaves, I hope you guys are cleaning engines and cleaning leaves out of where the wipers are. Clean that out.
Counts.
That's how I get
Solve
extra
that.
money to do that. And you should get it. The engine should be clean with a power washer.
And
Everybody
it's
should
not
have a
just
power washer.
cosmetic.
No, I tell people I fix cars by power washing
And
engines.
you can prevent trouble. You know,
And
there's a BMW model, E39 5 Series with a 6-cylinder. You can blow the motor with leaves.
Actually, BMW was supposed to come in today to get that cleaned out because it's got a whole bunch of leaves in it.
And,
Well, look at all the water problems you can get in BMWs,
Exactly.
Mercedes,
and that's what this
Volkswagen.
is. They have a box, so let's call it a chamber in the car where the brake power booster is. And the makeup air for the brake power booster does not come from the passenger compartment. It comes from that well. And if leaves clog up the drains, you go through a car wash, you have heavy rain like we just had.
I think it's raining now, isn't it?
Is it? No, I think it's stopped now. It's clear now. And you have that.
Put in
And
my weather report.
the well fills up with water. The car's running. The person hits the brake. What happens? Your vacuum helps you depress the pedal. And when you release it, makeup water enters the brake power booster instead of makeup air. And the next time you hit the brake, the water goes through the water main, which was your vacuum hose to your intake, and it takes out, it bends con rod number 4 and 5. And in one case, I had a
Not a pretty
customer.
sight.
Not a pretty sight. And in one case, I had a customer who had been driving the car a while. He actually had gotten everything good and hot, and then got in a downpour. And when that water went through to slug the engine, before it was done doing damage, it took out the catalytic converters too.
Wow.
Because it shock cooled them, and the matrix was shattered.
So maintenance as far as cleaning
Motor and
everything,
cats.
getting back to, should there be a way to test it? I would say, yeah, put the gauges on, check the low side first with the beeper, the high side. Look for any, you know, there's nothing like your brain, your eyes, your ears, your hands, your nose. Look around for stuff.
Yeah.
Look for anything that looks oil soaked. The first thing, I used to have a comb for the condensers
fins.
and stuff, for the
Right,
fins.
right.
Or you could take a hose, cleaning is good, lightly, don't put high pressure like this and bend the fins, but get some of the dirt out, now go back with your black lights.
And
I mean, I
But-
found tons of stuff like
And
that.
by the way, I mean, preventative service, you're doing a radiator. Clean the condenser.
Oh, please, please. And make sure the seals are good.
Right, around it. Yeah, yeah, right. All around
I
it.
used to keep weather stripping, you know, around because you lose a lot. People don't realize when you have, and how many cars come in, the air dam is broken or missing
Yeah,
or
right,
whatever,
sure.
and now you're not directing air.
Right.
Or,
Any
or like a
questions?
question I got today from Texas. We had a car with a problem. He had 2 codes, and one of the codes was on a Ford, on a Lincoln, was dealing with the module that turns on the fan. And the other one was high temperature, and the car cuts out with high temperature. I said, well, first thing you got to do is look at the scan data. They had 90% duty cycle, it said, was commanded from the PCM to the fan module. Now, the fan module wasn't making the fan work, so I said, what's the easiest thing to do? Disconnect the wires, find out what side of the disconnected end is power or ground, so you index it on
For
the
the
other
actual
side.
motor.
And now go to the motor with your power probe or jumper, fuse jumper wires. Does the load work? The load works, duh. Check the wires back to the module. On those, it's the modules. 9 out of 10 times.
Oh,
But
the
you gotta
module's
check.
getting power and ground?
You know.
Yeah.
It's bad. So it's not rocket science. Questions?
How do you feel about nitrogen leak testing in AC systems?
Now nitrogen leak testing. This used to be a real good thing to do. Pete Meyer went over this just recently, and you should check our buddy Mr. Pete Meyer out on his I don't know, Tech Night thing, whatever Pete has there. It's on the Motor Age website.
He
You know-
posted it. He posted the
posted.
link here, yeah.
Check out Pete's link, you guys that are on there. It's not what it used to be. You know, companies don't want you charging the system up with nitrogen in it anymore. You know, but sometimes you got to find a leak. It may be an easier way to.
And it's
find
cheaper
a
than
leak.
losing refrigerant.
Craig set up stuff. We don't use nitrogen here. We use CO2. And if it's not a brand new vehicle, what the hell?
And now the
Charge it
advantage
up.
of CO2 is if you have an exhaust analyzer.
We have a few.
Right. You can use an exhaust analyzer to find CO2. You're not going to have a nitrogen detector because, well, we're breathing 80% nitrogen. It's everywhere.
78 to be precise.
Whatever. 80% is good enough for me.
Well, don't you want your special nitrogen in your tires?
Right. That's pretty funny because you're already pumping 78% nitrogen into your tires. Sure, it's the
Next-
atmosphere is
next
78%
question.
Brian
nitrogen.
wants to know who makes the ultrasound unit?
They used to be sold by White Industry. Now, I just finished up some evap classes, I guess about 3 weeks ago up in Massachusetts, so I always bring that up, and guys ask me the question. Ultraphonics, and if you email me tomorrow, I'll send the thing to you. There is another company, I'm not going to badmouth them, but I wouldn't buy the one. Email me tomorrow, and I'll send you the one I would buy that NASCAR uses.
Now, I want to make a comment here. Neil just said, well, what about nitrogen machine and all of that? Well, for tires, the advantage of nitrogen for tires is not that it's never going to leak out or any of that garbage. I mean, to some degree, nitrogen molecules are bigger and it leaks lower. But the real advantage is when you have that machine, what you're pumping in your tires is dry, and your TPMS units, if they become slightly compromised, you know, they get little fissures in them, they're not going to corrode and come apart. So the real advantage in tires is TPMS lasting longer.
And they're expensive, by the way.
Yes.
A lot of stuff.
On our
Yeah.
2004 Jeep, it finally went. Craig just posted something
They're
on
very pricey.
TPMS, and they're like $40-some.
They break, did you go to take them off?
Yeah.
The garbage.
Just checking the air in the
Well,
tire?
they brittleize. I think the plastic.
Well, the rubber
brittle-
ones are better than the metals. The
Right.
metals are picks.
corrode like crazy. So nitrogen can be advantageous to stop the corrosion process, but as far as the leaking,
And
I don't know. Wow.
let me give you guys some information and a plug. Pete Meyer and myself go to the Motor Age website and or the TST website. We did a TPMS thing a while back. I don't remember when, but probably about a year ago. Is that what
Yeah,
Pete's saying?
Pete says he can let you know that he could hear you.
Well, Pete, post up there so everyone can see when we did that last
He did.
webcast.
He
Thank
did.
you.
By the way, I gotta go, guys, so good night. Thank you for listening.
Good night,
Thanks,
Neil.
Mark.
Yes.
All
Good
right.
night.
Okay.
Good night.
So, what else do we have? on the
Eric has
first
a question. What do you think about drilling hole in evap box to look for leaks and then plugging with rubber plug?
Ooh.
Well, you know something? There's validity to that, except you have to be extremely careful, A,
Where you
where you
drill it.
put the hole, and B, I mean, actually, there's an argument for drilling a hole in an evap box to use one of those mold products to get rid of
Yeah.
mold. You have to be able to access the box, but, you know, I have BMWs. We have 2 halves to the evap box on a lot of models. So you may only reach 1 half and not
may
clean
not
the other
pull it.
half, or may not see the other half. You have to be extremely careful with that, and you have to plug it properly.
Yeah, I would say,
A little iffy, but
you know, that's something that can cost you money because it's not a manufacturer recommendation.
you'd have to be very careful, extremely careful.
No.
Any
So-
other comments? That's it.
No air conditioning comments? No comments?
You know, we were talking about
You need
nitrogen.
help?
No, Pete's speaking to them.
Oh, yeah, it's chatting.
Hey, Pete,
That's
thank you.
cool. That's good.
You know, don't forget Thursday night, this coming Thursday night, we'll be doing the OTC Touch. So Pierre, myself, and Bear, one of our board members, will be giving us a hand along.
And we gave one of those away at our big event.
Oh, yeah, that
And,
we
you know,
did.
they weren't even out yet. Now, everybody, you know, Mac and the Cornwell tools, and everybody, Snap-on, I guess everybody has. No,
Snap-on.
Snap-on doesn't, right? A lot of the independents and, of course, OTC brands, you know, in their own brand name. They're all out there at this point.
That is true. So,
And TST is on the
you know,
menu.
the other thing I noticed, I was on our YouTube channel, and I noticed a lot of people, we got some good comments for our TST last roundtable about licensing. Now,
It was a
you know,
hot subject.
it's a hot subject, and Scott Brown, thank you, Scott, did a poll on IATN, and it was a real high percentage. You guys should go to IATN. I know most of you are members. Go to IATN and look for the poll. You can vote on it, and there's a lot about licensing. Now, you know, I'm a big proponent of ASE is excellent. We said that in the webcast before, but who knows? You know, I have to speak to my buddy Tony Mola and see if we can get a little conversation going with them on maybe moving this thing. I think they would be the best people as we can
Yeah, that's
work
right,
on
to do that. And there'd have to be some method of practical testing and some kind of format to it, just like there is in, we talked about that night. Just, you know, electricians and plumbers and, you know.
Yeah, we need something better.
Some type
than
of
we are.
standardization.
Donald wants to know if you've tested the Delphi diagnostic scan tool.
No, but bringing that up, the Delphi scan tool. My buddy Dave Hobbs emailed me the other day. He wants to come, he'll be one of our guest speakers with TST, and he wants to come out and do a webcast, you know, this roundtable thing or whatever, with his new scan tool. I've seen it in Vegas. It looked pretty nice, but, you know, there are a lot of scan tools, no knock against Delphi, please. There are many scan tools that are out there that say they can do a lot of things. You've seen our scan tool shootouts. You know, one company places right up top one time, and the next time they're down here. Really, you need more than one scan tool. Factory tools are always great, but they're not the answer for everyone.
No,
Because
and
there's no help.
sometimes they take longer. Sometimes an aftermarket scan tool is just easier to use, or
The ICOM or the GT1 takes way longer than Autologic.
and that's correct. And so
Hands
sometimes,
down.
you know, like my old shop, he bought my old Autologic. He had a GT1, and you know something? Sometimes the old GT1 is better. That doesn't work on the newest cars. Sometimes the Autologic is better.
But how easy?
Depends. The Autologic is always easier.
You know, in my upcoming article, I'm not sure what months, and in September, October, whatever, on BMWs, I used the Autologic on there. And, I mean, like this.
Well,
You can run tests, you can run monitors, you can do
But
so much.
Sometimes what the factory approach is kind of the lead you by the hand approach.
That
So
ICOM.
if there's a code, and if it's in the system, and if you follow the procedure, that really leads you to the answer. But if one of those ifs isn't in place, then you're
And-
better off with something else.
And you know what, with Identifix and, you know, there's so much stuff out there. And the forum, the BMW forum, but the WorldPack forums are killing.
Right.
You know,
They've
you
got it
guys,
very good now.
yeah, the WorldPack forum's got some really good people on it. You know, plug for WorldPack. They've done a great job. I know Craig uses that quite a bit, and Alex, they're always on that forum. Very,
Right.
very good info, as well as IATM. Question or comment?
Pete wants to know, how do you like the relay tester from AES?
The relay tester, just got it in, Pete. I mean, you know, I know we used it in the webcast, and last time we didn't have it here. We were going to use it. I like that, you know, it's good on voltage drops. I like all the connection ends he has. I really just got it in. Was it yesterday it came in? Yesterday afternoon.
So I guess that means
Yeah.
you're going to be using it.
I'm
you
gonna
haven't
be
used
using
it yet.
I haven't, but I think this is a great tool. You know, I like that you can put the amp clamp on here. And
Right.
Pete, what webcast did we use it on? I know we used it on one of them, right? That we did.
The idea is you can do a voltage drop across right here. You can plug in your banana leads on your multimeter.
And you can do the
Boom.
feed side.
Yep.
You know, you can see if there's voltage drop, and look at all the nice connector ends.
The
Yeah.
BMW article in September's issue of Motor Age.
Oh, okay, September, thank you. Who could keep track? But this is a nice setup. By the way, AES, for years, I've been friends with George, and I gotta tell you, you know, Pierre's bought many things off them. I've
Absolutely.
bought leads, and you need anything for your scope, your meters, go to AES, man. Those guys are really good. Check their website out, aeswave.com. Our buddy Jim Morton, who's on here tonight, Biggie. We'll have some tips coming up in our motor age column. I'll be doing some stuff on this. I like that new Power Probe, by the way. Not called the Power Probe, the hook. Really, really neat. I like that you can get, you know, amperage readings pretty much immediately.
You know, I thought I wouldn't be interested, and I don't have one. But recently there have been a couple of cars I was diagnosing where I thought, geez, it sure would have been nice to know the draw while I was testing this.
And it's,
and,
that was nice.
And that was exactly the thought that came to my mind. It's like, geez, I sure would have liked to known the draw on that.
Yeah, so, you
While I
know,
was there.
the only thing I would say, it does take a little bit because we've been using the regular Power Probes for years. It's a little bigger, but you can put a lot of the different connection ends that we have on.
So you don't have to have the actual hook
Right.
in your work spot. You're going to have
Exactly.
to have it remotely mounted and use a lead.
More questions? No more questions? Is it time to go home yet?
Nope, we got a few minutes.
Let's see. My brain's going dead.
Oh, well, that's it. Jerry's shutting down.
Oh, I know what I was going to say. You know, looking at the Bernie Tower right over here, I was using his amp clamp. Yeah, you can go up to the Bernie Tower. What a great Bernie Tower. Just don't get Craig's mess up top.
Yeah.
The Bernie Tower is great, but I was just using one of his amp clamps, and I really, I know I've said this in other webcasts, but I really like to bring up, you know, the amp clamps that come in there has a little light that tells you battery good or bad. Those things are so far off. I'm
Right.
testing something, and I'm like, this reading can't be right, so I got one of my other amp clamps out.
And the battery was
Totally
going dead.
different. The battery was going dead when I put my meter on it. That 9-volt battery was dipping anywhere down from 6 to maybe 8 volts.
Ah, yes.
So
Okay.
always check to make sure that your equipment is right. Baseline it.
Yeah. And by the way, on amp clamps, you know, there are a couple of them that auto shut off. Most of them do not.
I put tape on those because
If
those
you-
things don't shut off work today.
If you leave the button on, or in my case, because I'm a slob, I'm a wire breaker. You know, I just broke a set of leads on my Fluke 88. If you throw it in a box or jam
That's
it
me.
in the box, that's me, yeah. You might accidentally turn the power on as you're putting the junk in the box.
And there it goes.
And then the next time you need it, it's dead as a doornail. And of course, that's why I buy those like 10
Packs.
or 12 or 20 packs of batteries.
Home Depot. That's where we get my
Costco, good deals at Costco.
Okay. We'll give them plug.
And yeah, there you go. And you know, that's one of those things. Now, you know, the other thing, I just ran out of T-pins.
Oh,
Now,
T-pins.
the T-pins that are real pointy or real insulated are good, and you know, but they cost more money. If you don't need to worry about that in a particular job, you go to a fabric store and you buy fabric pins. You know, they have the ones with the plastic head that are good sometimes. They have the ones that are really a T.
The T is the real good ones. And by the way, there's different quality.
And different thicknesses of the size of the needle.
Right.
And so sometimes the fat ones that are really good won't fit in a connector without
You
having
bet.
damage. You know, you want to get into that weather pack and
while you're
test,
back,
but not damage.
She has a question or something that
You don't want to be crossing up leads either.
I may have to read.
So that just came to mind because I had a box of T-pins that I finally went through all 100 T-pins or whatever it was.
Okay, here's a comment, Pierre, and we know this is something common out there. Someone has written in here, had a Camaro passing the Midtronics capacitance test, but failed the old carbon pile test.
Yeah, well, I don't
Well,
buy that.
The
capacity.
first thing I would say is, number one, are the battery connections clean into the battery? You know, every battery company uses this, every manufacturer uses it. You must have Zippo voltage drop between the terminal and that, and you got to really dig in. Now, that also being said, there's nothing like loading something up. Okay, you know, there really is.
That's what a meg ohm meter does. It loads it,
Yeah.
the text. I'm old school. I still like the old-fashioned test. And I've seen, let me say this. The Midtronics type of tester is very fast and very easy, and most of the time, it's fine.
Yeah, it's on if all your connections are good.
But I've had, I remember one case, I don't know, 6, 7 years ago. BMW 8 Series car has 2 batteries in parallel, no isolation, no funny electronics. They're running some of the computers on the car off of this battery, and some of the stuff on the car on this battery. And when you have differences between the 2 batteries, you can start getting cross feeds through the networking or the connections between these modules. And you can get really weird stuff. So here's an example. At an 8,
Change those in pairs.
yeah, you have to change. Well, this car had both batteries changed at a dealer as a pair a year earlier, and they left the negative terminal off of one of them.
Oh, that'll do you.
And somehow it worked for a year. I don't understand how, but somehow it worked. Kind of. But as the one battery that was detached died, it started creating all kinds of anomalies. And the one I liked the most was the guy would hit his left window switch down and the sunroof opened. And he'd hit the window switch up and the sunroof opened even more and he couldn't close the sunroof.
But doesn't that always go to show you? Basics. Check. The battery is the heart of the system.
The battery is the heart of the system. And when I went to the dealer to warranty the battery, they put it on a Midtronics tester and it said recharge and retest. And they recharged
Is that
and
the GR8, the big unit, or a small unit?
Well, I never really saw them do the test. I don't know what it was. But the bottom line was, it passed the test. I went to pick the car up and the car wouldn't start in their parking lot. Now, it fails my test. The car has to drive, you know, it has to start. And at that point, the dealer would only warranty the one bad battery, even though they themselves tell you that you must replace them in pairs. So in that case, the customer had to buy a new battery, even though his other one was still functional.
And that tester they use, the factory tester that we have, a GR8 Midtronics, very expensive unit, about $4,000 or $5,000 unit. Their tester is computer-based with an amp clamp on it. Really does a good load, but there is a difference between a carbon pile tester.
Yeah, I still have an old carbon pile tester.
Associated, in fact, we're supposed to get some new stuff in from them. When I do hybrid battery testing, perhaps you read the article I did sometime this year, I think it was January. When I rebuild battery packs, I will not use an electronic
You have to load each battery.
I will load each battery because I have seen some fail where Midtronic says it's good.
And so that's the problem. And so most of the time, fast is good and it works. And sometimes you need to load it.
You know, the beauty of it, yeah, you can print it out, but you got to be very, very careful. Any other questions before we call it a night? Well, once again, belated happy 4th of July. So we'll be back on Thursday night this week. How is our sound out there tonight? We think we have pretty much everything under control.
Anybody out there who remembers we've had some issues with sound, and we found out that we had a soundboard, brand new soundboard, not cheap.
No, not cheap.
That's been intermittently driving us crazy. Worked sometimes, didn't work the next time. We tested at 6 o'clock, and at 8 o'clock it would malfunction for the webcast. So, right? Multiple times. Multiple times. So we believe so feedback on that? Sound is good?
So Pete,
Very good.
Gonzo,
Sounds good.
So we think we've got a handle on the sound finally. It was a bad piece of equipment.
And how's our picture, besides my ugly face?
Oh, sure, sounds great. No Mickey Mouse squeaks.
Good. Oh, so there you go. That's good.
Good
So
sound
we
and video.
apologize for all those previous problems, technical difficulties.
We know, you know, I went on a webcast recently, not one that we did, but someone else. And it was absolutely brutal. I had to call Doreen, and I was looking at it at home, and I was like, oh my God, this webcast is absolutely terrible. So we feel bad when we've had problems in the past, and it's been absolutely terrible for some of you. I know one we did not long ago, a guy said, please switch back to the other system.
Right,
And we had
exactly.
to-
But
we
what
had
he didn't
problems.
realize is we were still on the same system. It was malfunctioning intermittently. In fact, that thing's been sent out and repaired, and it still has a different
It's-
problem.
Yeah, we may have to just bite the bullet and buy
Buy
another one and
Yeah.
complain, send this back. But it just came back.
But you know, we work in a technical field, you know. Don't we run into things like this in cars all the time? Or test equipment?
Question, comment?
Pascal says face is a problem, but the picture's good.
Watch it, Pascal. Where have you been? Now, there's a good auto logic guy. Do you like your auto logic, Pascal?
And give
Bet
him
he
a little
does.
bit.
I know we bought multiple models.
I was, you know,
Or
not the very
car
beginning.
lines.
Yeah, I bought one car line on.
Excellent.
Excellent, yeah, he loves it, yeah.
So not that we get paid by them, but you
Yeah,
know,
but you know, we plug stuff we like, and we probably tick off the people of stuff we don't like. But that's the thing
well,
here.
let's
We're
speak
trying to
about
be
the-
honest.
Let's speak about the last thing. This Volkswagen that Alex has outside, you know, it's a diesel, okay? Now, we have Rostec, excellent scan tool. Excellent, right?
Yep.
But when you got to do a lot of bidirectional controls, you don't want to jerk with a laptop, guess what we're using on it? AutoLogic.
Right.
It really kills.
Yeah.
And by the way, we'll probably write something up, this will be in our TST column or something here where it had a bunch of problems with this diesel not running. The dealer told them they needed a ton of stuff, but it's in here, and I think it's a 2009 if I'm not mistaken.
It's an '09. I have a question for guys out there. I do part-time little freelance in my old shop, BMW. Had a car today, an N52 motor, had blown a hose, had a water pump code because it ran dry, you know, or low, and the water pump was not compromised in this, didn't show a problem. But when I idled the car, I thought the thermostat was bad. It was idling at like 83 degrees centigrade, which I think is a little cold.
Yeah, it's a little cold.
And yet, when the other guy in the shop looked at it and compared it to another car he was working on, that he had just changed the water pump and the thermostat on, same motor. He said the numbers were OE. He said the numbers were comparable, but it seemed. Does anybody know what the spec is on that? I mean, the real world spec, not the stuff in the book that you know, may be a little off. What are they really running at idle? Because when I revved this up, it started to climb, and I don't think it was doing it for emissions reasons. I believe it was climbing because the thermostat was leaking at idle. In other words, it was bypassing.
I see.
And as you were pushing more flow through it, as the water pump, the electric water pump spun up, it was only leaking the same amount, and it proportionally was less.
Huh.
I think they're supposed to be running 90 something and
Yeah, I
over
would say
100
in
and
the
over
90s,
100
yeah.
degrees when you're, you know, cruising down the road and it wants to have.
Yeah, so there's
High
that'll
thermodynamic
put it in your
efficiency.
200 something range.
Yeah, exactly.
Where you want most vehicles
But
to run.
if anybody out there knows the answer off the top of their head, that would be cool. I thought 83 at idle was too low. In centigrade, C.
Right. So 1.9 factor ratio.
Right. But I didn't have a real baseline of that in my head.
You know,
It just seemed a little cold.
that's something you should
I would have called the thermostat.
post up on IATN or something.
Yeah, that's a good
Is
idea.
that an electronic thermostat on that one?
Yes, it's a map cooling system.
Yeah.
But it's mounted in a place where
Nothing's easy on those.
they had all this real estate to put an electric water pump. And what do? They stick it under the engine, on the exhaust side, over the control arm and plastic and stuff, and and you can see it there with a borescope. But,
Real tough.
well, you can reach it kind of, partially, parts of it, but if
Job
you-
security.
job security. If you have to fix it, you might as well just rip everything out and change it
Well,
all.
if there's no other comments,
No comments on 83C, huh?
we'd like to say thank you once again for your time.
And
We
good night.
appreciate. Don't forget to go to our YouTube channel, TST Seminars. Our buddies at Motor Age, our
Yep.
friends at Power Probe,
AES.
AES.
A lot of these
Wave.
companies have been supporters of us, and
Yeah.
they've been supporters of technicians, and they're into quality.
Yep, and a good Bernie tool, and the guys from Smoke Wizard, and
Power
everyone
Pro, I
else
think
that
you already
helps us
said Power
out.
Pro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We really appreciate it. Well, from New York, a hot, sticky night. I hate leaving this room.
Yeah, for air conditioning
Pete,
here.
it feels like it's Florida time. We'll be down in Florida in a couple of weeks, and I'm ready. It can't be as hot as here.
He's acclimated. On Saturday, we had 97 degrees or 98 degrees at my house, and I was cutting steel and welding on my back home.
So your weather report from New York. All right, guys. Thank you. Good night.
Yep, good night.